Keying software. I've had people call and say, "Hey, I want to buy some keying software." Okay. What are you doing? Well, I'm going to key some locks. Okay. Um, Tell me about your locksmithing background. Oh, no, not really. I just want to have a software, tell me how to do it. Um, I have found that I've spoken to people and I think I've come across not very helpful because I don't um, think people understand what keying software will do and more importantly what it won't do. Going through this primer, if you're ever going to own keying software, is definitely going to be helpful. Going through any locksmithing book is going to be absolutely crucial to better utilizing keying software. Keying software, and I've owned Master Ring many years ago. I played around with it. I saw that, okay, it gives you biddings. Got it. Great. I can do that too. Um, Owning keying software without understanding what it's doing under the hood, so to speak, I think is less advantageous because it'll be not more difficult to use the software, but I think you might be less sure of what you're doing when you're using the software if you don't know the fundamentals of a key bidding array and methods of progression. So if you're considering buying keying software, my opinion is, how big are your systems? We've talked about the standard progression format. Are your systems more than one page? If they're not, do you want to go through the effort of having the software, needing to continually upgrade the software, keeping it secure, paying for it? If you're going to make a system of 12 keys, do you need to go through the software? I would say no. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. The flip side of all of that is you need 1,000 changes. Yeah, you can write them all out, and I have. And it takes an hour and a half and a cramped wrist, and the possibility of errors. I wrote a system for Schlegg to key, and a week later they were like, "Are you sure you want that for AA 256?" And I looked at it, and I had skipped one of the progressions, and that made all the rest of the 100 keys off. So I had to rewrite it. Now, software would have just spit that out. And I think my final word on it is if you're going to do large systems and need to produce large quantities of biddings, absolutely you're going to want software. You're going to want to understand how it works. But if you're doing small systems like one page or less, which means 64 keys in two-step, I guess I'm more old-fashioned. So keying software, I'll read the chapter. We won't switch to the screen view. I have a little to say regarding master keying software. Means I have a little bit I can mention. I owned a version of HPC's product in the early 90s and never really used it. As a result, I'm certainly no expert. But if I did far more in-house locksmithing than my firm currently does, bear with me. If I did far more locksmithing than my firm currently does and service larger systems from inception, I would most absolutely use master keying software, and I would likely want to demo each before I made a purchase decision. HPC Master Keying, it is pretty simple and straightforward. It doesn't give you some exotic rules, doesn't allow you to tweak the methods of progression as you may like to if you become expert or advanced in this subject, but it is the least expensive other than using Excel, obviously, but we'll get to that. There's another one called Simple K and ProMaster. There are links to those companies' websites here that you can get to. Lloyd Selber CML is a walking trove of immediate knowledge of all of these systems. I know that he is a distributor for one or two of the systems, and I would definitely suggest that you reach out to him. He can be contacted, I'm sure, through Aloha. If you're going to make a substantial investment in software, I couldn't see doing it really without consulting him. I'm sure there must be countless other people who possess, a level of knowledge equal to his on this software, but he's the one that I know of. And I would, if I was going to buy one, I would call Lloyd and say, which one, Lloyd? What's the one that you use and why do you use it? And if you didn't use that one, which one would you use? What would be your alternate and why? And I would choose between those two is how I would do it. HPC Master King, Simple K, and ProMaster. Then spreadsheets, Excel, Google Sheets, OpenOffice, they can all be used for doing this. You can have shortcuts, and that's how a lot of people do it. And I know that I believe that the factories use spreadsheet type software for doing this as well. The problem is errors can creep in. A formula can be wrong. You give it bad data. Probably not so with established programs, software programs. A final word would be, unless you or your shop will be personally combining medium or large systems, I personally see no reason why you would invest in this software. Having said that, if you are an employee for a company and or a Big Ten university, and you want to be able to do your job and do it as best as possible, and you're willing to learn, and it's not your money, yeah, I think you should have every tool available to you to allow you to do your job as professionally as possible. While it is nice to know how these programs work and what they can do and what each of them does best, there is a financial investment required, and beyond that, a time commitment required. You're better off, my opinion, if you're doing small systems, you're better off spending that time and money working towards your AHC and other high-level DHI credentials, would be my opinion about it. Small systems, do them by hand would be my guess. You're going to be wanting to do limited position progression or maybe rotating constant after. Do them by hand, simple stuff. Further reading is the next chapter. I'm just going to mention some books here, and it won't take too terribly long, and let's get into that right now.